Welcome. This is Tax Pro Nation, the home of the independent tax professionals, where you can find a tax community, maximize your earnings, and live life on your own terms. I'm your host, Imelda Ledesma, COO of Pronto Tax School. Welcome back to our IRS Tax Forum Spotlight Series.
So we're here live, episode 2, broadcasting live from Orlando at the IRS Forum. We're here with Daniel from a company called Protection Plus. So I was telling Daniel before we started the episode, which, you just came right from your booth into this podcast with no preparation at all. But that you're not intimidated at all, and I can tell, and I like that. Protection Plus is a name that a lot of us have heard about. Some of us are already using your guys' product. You've made a lot of inroads into the main audience that we serve is tax professionals with teams of between 1 and 4 team members. For that audience, as you know from working with Protection Plus, we feel like we need protection.
Yep.
That's a common desire of sometimes feeling like we're out on a limb by ourselves. We don't have all the resources necessarily of big companies, things like that. What if something goes wrong?
Yep.
And all those types of thought processes, right? That have helped you guys to break into the industry and become one of the more popular solutions. So, can you talk to us a little bit about that fear of something going wrong? What if something happened with my clients, and particularly with the more independent tax business? How do you guys see that, and what are your experiences that kind of match up with that, or maybe even are different from that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It's great to be here. I think with Protection Plus, it does a couple things, right? And specifically the market that we're talking about, letters, notices, and audits are a nuisance a lot of the time, right? And we see tax professionals and accounting firms, it's a huge pain point for them because it's, when you're filing those tax returns, it's stuff you're probably not planning on later in life, right? You're going to file this tax return. It's maybe February. Things are really busy. But one thing that doesn't ever stop is the IRS or these state taxing authorities, right? And so to have a solution for the firm, because there's somebody in that office that has to handle that. Whether this letter or notice that they got was correct, right? The information on that letter is what it says it is, and
which a lot of times it's not,
right? But our data tells us that 52% of the time it's not. Like, it's going to be just wrong because the IRS, they are incorporating a lot of different technologies now, right? So let's run our AI machines or tools or whatever, and hopefully we can spit out a lot of these letters and notices and get a couple collections here and there. But whether it's correct or not, somebody has to respond to that. And so you have these firms that are very busy in their day in, day out operations. And now a client comes to them probably in tears that a letter or notice or even a full-blown audit has come across their desk.
And thinking that I did something wrong as the service provider to cause this letter. But
Absolutely.
You're saying 52% of the time it's not my fault.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But somebody has to respond to that. And so it's, okay, are you going to take an employee that can probably do more valuable work for you, whether that be more tax returns, maybe you're doing bookkeeping, some sort of advisory services, whatever it may be, right?
Something that makes me money rather than being a pure nuisance.
Because servicing these letters and notices, for most firms, it's not very profitable. It's low value work. And the people inside the firm that are having to do it, right? You might own the firm, but your employees that are actually doing the work, it's probably not fun work for them. They would probably enjoy doing something else more. So you have to take that into consideration as well, right? Employee happiness, are they enjoying their day-to-day activities? So it's something to consider. And for the client, the taxpayer, that peace of mind that they get, knowing that, okay, I see all this stuff on the news, whether it be the IRS or identity theft restoration, whatever it may be, you have a solution for that. So you can put that taxpayer's mind at ease, knowing that, hey, when we're filing this return, it's protected. If you have any letters, notices, or audits that come in, we have an expert resolution team, the best in the country, that can assist you and get you through that process. So, like I said, it provides a peace of mind for the taxpayer, but it also provides a way for the firm and the tax professional to get a sense of peace, and maybe they can be a little more efficient. There's a revenue incentive, right, where they adjust their prices correctly, that they can get a big benefit, and then they're not having to spend the time to do these sorts of things.
And you said that you guys do two main things. So that all makes sense to me because I've been that person that's been responding to it, as well as I've been the person making other team members unhappy by causing them to do it. So you really kind of struck
it's a reality.
Sensitive chord right on that.
Yeah.
I apologize to everybody that I did that to. I did that to Imelda, I think, too.
No.
So yeah, it's kind of like you'd rather be doing anything in the world other than that. And the only person more unhappy about what's going on right now than the team member is the client.
Right.
So it's and so you guys are and then the second thing that you guys do is what?
So we have a couple different segments, I would say, to the product. Now it differs depending on the software that somebody might be using inside the firm.
Okay.
But obviously the big main core benefit that you're going to see headlined everywhere is that $1 million in tax protection. Meaning we'll spend $1 million getting the best resolution possible for that letter, notice, or audit. Number 2 is the identity theft restoration. So anybody that's on that tax return, so it's almost like a family identity theft plan. And it deals with tax and life scenarios, which I think is a very big differentiator in our product compared to some others.
Okay. So
right?
Would it be comparable to like a LifeLock or something like that?
Absolutely,
okay.
Right? And those are great products, but most of them are only going to touch life scenarios. So if you have a social security number that gets compromised,
it's not tax specific.
Nothing. Right? They're. I'm not going to say they're not going to,
right.
But
but y'all are in tax.
We are
specifically.
In the tax specific world, right? And so we can handle the life stuff that you would come across that you see in the news, and then also the tax stuff. So if you go to file a return and it gets rejected, right? What's the process look like for you and your firm to get that fixed? What kind of nuisance is that? Well, now you have a team that can do all that for you and get that client's identity restored. So that's number 2. The last one is a $2,500 tax preparation guarantee. And this allows the firm to tell their clients that I stand behind my work. Any errors that I make on behalf of myself or the firm, if you owe penalties, interest, tax obligations, fees, whatever it may be because of this error that I made, I'll reimburse that up to $2,500. So it's a confidence booster for both parties, right? Because I'm so confident in my work, if I make a mistake, I'm going to pay this $2,500, out of my pocket or whatever it may be. And now you have Protection Plus to utilize that. Because I know a lot of tax professionals that they feel like because if they made the mistake, that they need to be the ones that are coming out of pocket to pay that.
Yeah.
Well, now instead of coming out of your pocket to pay $250, $500, which adds up over time, now you can utilize Protection Plus. You've paid that really small fee beforehand, and you can utilize that tax preparation guarantee, which is nice.
Yeah, I've done that quite a bit as well, where, if you do enough tax returns with the complexity of what we do, you're going to have mistakes, even if you always are doing your best. Like I can honestly say with every client that I've ever, served, I think I've done over 10,000 tax returns, and I've always tried to do the best that I can, for that situation. There's just stuff that happens. And so
it happens, and you think about where technology is going, right? A lot of these tax softwares that we see today, this year, are going to be different moving forward because you're going to have a lot of AI that starts to come in, and essentially the software is doing probably a lot of plugging and playing those numbers for the tax return. And you as the preparer might just be reviewing it at the end. And so to have a guarantee sort of that you can trust your technology that it's going to do the right thing, that's helpful too. So I think that can be a good point of emphasis, talking about the preparation guarantee, is that, okay, well, the technology is going to do quite a bit of it. I'm going to review it. And even though I may not have known every single thing that went into that tax return, I can have a little bit of peace myself, because if there's an error that's made, I'm guaranteed I can stand behind my word.
I hadn't thought of it that way, because I've been looking towards, and even Gruntworks is our neighbor here, that's one example for automating data entry. Part of what it's scary because it could potentially decrease accuracy, even that as it increases efficiency. So I hadn't thought of your solution in that way, of where it could kind of help you embrace those types of automation processes with less anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's coming, right? That part of the industry is coming. It's growing. It's going to be there. And so to have that comfort, because I think all of us, as much as we're starting to ease our feet into technology and artificial intelligence, it's still going to take some time. And I know even now we'll go into Chat GPT, and you can trust the results, but you want to give it that second look, and you want to have a little bit of peace, and you're still a little weary on how accurate is the information. Even though you know it's doing it a lot faster and a lot more efficient than you have, you still want to double check that. And so, our tax preparation guarantee, if you use those tools, you can have that little sense of peace and still stand behind your work with the confidence that you once did.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I already know quite a bit about your guys' solution, and a lot of our members use it. I had not thought of it at all that way. I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, though, because I think you're exactly right. The automation power is increasing, but then, like you said, on the automation on the and the AI on the tax collector side is also increasing vastly. So kind of my theory on it has been, the letters are extremely profitable and the auto-generated things are extremely profitable from a tax collector point of view.
Yep.
Because it's automated. I have a lot of ability as a just putting myself in the tax collector's shoes, that I have new tools that I can use that are not nearly as cost intensive. And even if I send out a lot of letters that maybe they're right, maybe they're not, but they have a number on them of the amount that you should pay, a lot of people just take it and pay it.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of us as tax professionals, we might have we get kind of righteously indignant about that in a certain way. Like it's like almost like a desire for justice. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want our clients to ever have to pay for something that they shouldn't be paying for.
Absolutely.
And that's deep into our DNA as a service provider. But how to fulfill that, and how to fulfill that in a profitable way for you and in an efficient way, and that kind of thing. So I like us kind of and that was why I was interested to have you as a guest on the podcast, is to kind of think through those things, because a lot of us are looking at our processes and our technology and how do we tie it together, there's so many vendors here and so many things to choose from, which are like your core sort of things that are really going to make a difference for you and move the needle for you.
Yep.
So I really appreciate you bringing up that point. Give us a little bit of background on who are you, and how did you get into this business and specifically this kind of part of the business?
Yeah, so
the tax industry.
So I run our partnerships team, vice president of partnerships at Protection Plus. And I actually started my career as a high school English teacher.
Okay.
And so this was a number of years ago. I did that for a couple of years, and I realized that I really loved people. At that time they were my students, but just the relationships that I developed, that was the key to me. Now, whatever industry I did that in, I don't know that I cared. Luckily, Protection Plus is headquartered in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where I'm from. And so when I decided to kind of make that migration out of teaching, it's like, well, you have to do something, right? And so I thought the sales world would fit me really well. I took a leap of faith and joined our sales team at Protection Plus. And I did that for a few months, a typical sales role like you would think. And then I moved over to our partnerships team, and I've been doing this for a couple of years now. So I love it. I do quite a bit of these industry events. I travel all around the country. And so I get to hear and see a lot and talk to tax professionals at every level. And so I know that I love it. I think it's the best job in the world with the best company in the world. We have a fantastic service, fantastic product, leadership, and I get to spend time with folks like you. And because it's just a blessing of an industry to be in, I'll say that.
That's awesome, because the tax industry is interesting. I mean, it's interesting even that you said you're an English teacher. So I was an English major in college and was, about, the farthest thing from an accountant that anybody could imagine. So and I also live now in North Carolina. So it's ironic that we're having this conversation. Yeah, I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. So a lot of people don't realize that people get into this industry in all different kinds of ways.
Yeah.
And a lot of it does come back to, I think, people and caring about people, wanting to relate to people, wanting to help people that need help. And so for the more independent tax professionals, which I think is, so say you have like a CPA firm, an enrolled agent business, a tax preparer business, tax consulting business. like I said at the beginning, we feel like we need help, we need protection, we need that backup. I'd be interested to hear from you is who of what kind of growth opportunities do you see for me as a participant in the industry relative to your solution? Because say, for example, our members, a lot of people think of it as, well, this would be something that I would be nice have for my clients, right? Mm-hmm. They might resonate for what you're saying. Yeah. And also it'd be nice for me to not have to respond to all these annoying letters and have it be outsourced, right? And they get that. What I've seen from our members though, and what I'd love to get people thinking about here on the Tax Pro Nation podcast is, how do I combine my desire to help people and especially my clients, also my community, also my potential clients, things like that, be a positive part of the world with increasing my profitability and my earning power as a professional? And so our members, for example, that use your solution, a lot of them are able to, you have your kind of where I can apply your solution across my entire client database. And then I charge because I'm participating and I'm creating the solution for you, et cetera. I'm also providing some personalized backup and to kind of make it all go. So, you might charge this to the business owner, the tax business owner, right? Then the tax business owner can have a different charge that they put to their client because of that new value. Yep. Can you talk through that? How does this potentially increase my profitability as opposed to just going into the bucket of, this is another nice thing that I'm doing for my clients because I care about them, but it's costing me money. Do I actually make money with this somehow? Yeah. And if so, how?
Absolutely. So a data point that everybody loves is when you roll in Protection Plus, you can grow 11.5% your revenue within the first year. And I'll tell you exactly how it happens. So, we're coming to the end of the workflow when you're talking about Protection Plus and sort of that peace of mind, right? You decide, or the tax professional, the firm decides for their clients that, hey, I'm going to use this certain software to do your taxes, right? You also, as the tax professional in the firm, can decide that, hey, I'm going to enroll and implement Protection Plus into my firm, right? You decide that for your clients. So when Protection Plus first started, it was a product that you sold across the table. Typical, a la carte kind of product that we're all very familiar with.
Or you have to explain it and you have to do all this and you're selling things that we don't want to do.
Exactly, okay. Right? And because, let's be honest, tax professionals, maybe not the most keen salesman in the world.
I was wondering how you were going to put that.
Right? And now there are a lot of great ones out there, don't get me wrong. But it is what it is. That's the reality of the industry, right? So what we've designed with our firm level program is that we have a blanket fee. It's $10 per 1040.
Okay.
Right? And so what tax professionals and firms are deciding to do is say, hey, I'm going to roll that $10 into my preparation fees or a technology fee or whatever it may be, whatever best fits their operation. And I'm going to at least raise that fee $10 to be able to cover that cost and break even. And now I've raised them a little bit. It's given me a good excuse, maybe, if you're looking for ways to raise your prices and bring in more revenue that way. Now, what most people really do is raise their fees $15 to $25. So we're going to bill that firm $10 per individual return that comes through their system as they're filing. It's not an upfront cost or anything like that. You can register today for no money down.
Okay.
And then as you're filing throughout the year, we're integrated with all the tax softwares. And it'll tell us, hey, you did 10 returns in the month of February, and you'll see a bill from Protection Plus for $100. So think about if you could get an extra $10, $15, $25 on every single return, and then also have this value add for the clients. Because you're telling them, hey, when you come do your taxes with me, I'm going to give you $1 million in tax protection. So if you have any letter, notice, or audit that comes in, we have an expert solution. I'm going to give you and your family, if you have dependents and spouses on that return, right, you're going to get this identity theft restoration. And if you do get hit, we're going to monitor you for up to a year. And then you have that third guarantee where, hey, I'm so confident in my work that I stand behind it. And any errors that come on behalf of me or my staff, we're going to reimburse that of $2,500. So you look at those three benefits, the value add of that, that can separate your tax operation maybe different than your next door neighbor. Because, not selling this product to them anymore. You're including it. And as long as you're adjusting your fees correctly, like I said, the first year on average, 11.5% revenue growth, which is a fantastic number. And just think about it. How many tax returns do you do? And what would that mean if I were able to grab another $15 to $25 on each of those returns?
Yeah, we've seen, so I have one member in mind in particular, somebody that has been one of the new generation of tax professionals. I think we're one of the few training schools that we have a pretty big following of newer people to the industry. So we help a lot of people break into the industry, start their business, and kind of we're pretty accessible to like anybody, you could say.
Yep.
And so this particular member, which I thought was really smart, that's why I know it's like this guy's going to be successful. As my friend David in Castle Rock, Colorado. One of his anxiety points about starting his business was that what if something happens and all the kind of thing, in which that's natural to have that as
Absolutely.
a new person because you're out on your own, right? So he makes an investment in our, support services and things like that. So he's kind of like, but still there's just things that can happen. So what he did is he included Protection Plus early on in his business and almost used it as a way for people to feel secure in using a newer person. Mm-hmm. And kind of like being able to have some insurance there for the client. And what I think he charged like $39. So like you're paying $10 to Protection Plus, you're charging $39. And most importantly for us, since we're not really a sales oriented culture necessarily, is feeling like, if I charge you $39 as the client, but this is what you're getting, the value you still, if you portray it even halfway correctly, you don't have to be an expert salesman like you. Basically, this is kind of what clients want, is that if something goes wrong, it's going to be taken care of, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And I'm quadrupling my costs, so it's really becoming more of a profit center for me.
Absolutely.
And we've also seen members charge maybe like $99 but I did want to address too, like strategically. So let's say that I'm hearing this and people are like, this sounds interesting. I know a lot of people have already either signed up for or explored your service, right? So it's not like a secret in the industry by any means, but this other pricing option, because like there's still the more a la carte. So like that might be like, say for example, with Schedule C's, right, is a more problematic, letter heavy type of client, especially as the states and local people have started sending all these letters to like small business freelancers and things like that. So if I wanted to take it more like that, so let's say like I wanted to just have it for specific clients, can you talk a little bit about that? Not only your offer of like kind of what you guys offer in that, but how would I think through as a professional which of those is right for me or something like that? Because I know there's also software considerations.
Yep. Depending on your software, you're going to have the ability to have the firm level program like we talked about, where it's a blanket coverage. But then we also have what we call our per return or standard program, which is like you're describing, our a la carte program. And it's going to vary depending on your software. Now, the benefits are going to be the same as far as you have your $1 million of tax protection, you have your identity theft restoration, and then you have the guarantee on your work. Typically, it's going to be $59.95. And when you're deciding for your firm which program you want to go with, I think you want to look at a consideration of, what do your clients want? And then what do you want out of it? And I would also say it depends on the sort of demographics that you're working with as far as your client base.
Okay.
If it's nothing to raise your prices $10 or $15, and that's something standard for your operation,
okay,
go for it, right? Absolutely. But there are price sensitive customers out there. And so I think the per return standard model fits really well if you're doing quite a bit of bank products.
Okay.
Because right on that blanket coverage, the firm level, it's going to be there whether it's funded or not, right? And so on the per return product,
gotcha.
it falls more in line with that sales process of maybe how you're already doing things. And then you can mark that up from $59.95 up to most softwares are $124.95. And so you're going to create that, you're going to profit on that margin. So there is a greater sense of profitability there. And like I said, it depends on what you're comfortable with as a tax professional. If you're a great salesman and this is something that you can include as you're closing out the tax return, right? Maybe, hey, it's something as simple as, I know you've come to me as your trusted tax professional, right? This is something I recommend, but if you didn't want it, we can remove this. But I highly recommend that you include this protection. So if anything goes awry, you can have that peace of mind, and we're going to help you out and assist you with this, the expert resolution team that we have.
And so that's more selective. You could select the clients that maybe you would recommend that for, and have a specific conversation, as opposed to this is something that we're doing at our business. And this is part of our business operations now. To move towards wrapping up the episode, which I really appreciate you joining us and sharing. I think I got some really good insights here for people that are thinking about this. I know none of us have like a crystal ball of what's going to happen. There's been a really interesting, I don't know what you'd call it, maybe a reversal or a sea change in terms of IRS. It was like all the social media posts for a while was, there's going to be 87,000 new agents. They're going to be, banging down your door, especially if you're self-employed. That everybody's going to get audited more, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And now we're in this like switch over to, they're going to lay off 50% of the staff. But then, like I did a email recently, Daniel, about they invested to this Palantir to add more AI to the IRS database and correlate it with all these different things. And so I'm sure you guys have been following that and maybe even had a couple meetings about kind of, because you have to manage risk on your end too. You guys are paying people a lot to do the type of work that you do. You guys have to think through this is probably at a much deeper level even that we do as service providers. How do you see whether it's notices, all out audits, like in-person audits have been way down, which seems to make sense from a cost point of view, from the tax collector point of view. AI obviously changes the game tons because you can data mine so much more to only select people that are likely to yield a collection result. This is the type of paranoid stuff I think about.
Hey, you're right. You're hitting the nail on the head though.
Okay.
I mean,
because this is what I think of. I think of when I think of our database of clients, that's a collection of people that we don't want them having problems with things. Right. And so our job is to think and see around corners and make sure that we are protecting them as much as possible. And that's really your guys' job too. Obviously at a bigger scale across all these thousands of businesses that you serve. So, in the prediction business, or how does this environment change moving forward, do you think? And why do you think that it changes the way that you think? Like any kind of data is really, like the data points you mentioned is really interesting to our audience of kind of like, why do you think what you think? How do you see it going? How you see it going?
So I don't think it's, let me try to think the best way to say it. I don't think it's going to get fixed and a lot more streamlined anytime soon.
Okay.
As far as, I think it's a wild, wild west sort of feeling. Because like you said, I mean, just in the last year, it's, hey, we're going to add X amount of employees. Oh, wait, no, we're going to cut back these employees. Oh, wait, those employees we cut back, we're going to try to rehire some of those. I mean, right, it's kind of going everywhere. And that's just the name of the game. It's how it is.
And we thrive in chaos, right?
We thrive in chaos. That's exactly right. And I think it works well for our service, what we do, because you're going to see a lot of technology start to get implemented. And to really train an IRS agent takes time. And so I think a lot of it is just going to be kind of holding on to our seats and seeing how quickly things move. I mean, I think there's a direction and there's a plan there, but how quickly that comes to fruition is going to, I mean, it might be 10, 20 years, right, before you get all these things implemented that you want to get implemented. So I think the technology is going to have a huge play in what that technology is specifically. And then how are we utilizing that technology, or how is the IRS going to utilize that technology, right? Is it, let me scan through a bunch of different documents and, like you said, find target clients or taxpayers that I feel like would be easy to collect on, right? Is it those sort of metrics that we're measuring? Are we going to shoot out 50 million letters and say, hey, you owe $200 and hope half of you pay, right? So what's that strategy going to look like? But I think what we can do at the end of the day is, with everything going on, whether it changes every month, every 6 months, every year, whether we start to see this consistent plan that we all feel like we're believing in, we try to give that sense of peace to the taxpayer and the tax professionals and the industry as a whole, that, hey, no matter what happens, you're going to have a safe place where with whatever goes on, that we're going to make sure we're adjusting our teams and we're adjusting our resources and doing the proper training on our side to be able to defend these issues that come up. Because I think it is going to be a little bit hectic. I think as you think about coding and technology, how quickly does that stuff align with each other, with their own systems? And so do you have one system saying this and another saying this? And how is that getting flagged to the taxpayers or the professionals? What does that look like on their end as far as when that stuff really starts getting rolled out? So I think it's really interesting. And we might open Pandora's box with the technology that's going to get rolled out over the next few years. But I think we have a solution for that, because I think we're growing and we're investing in our teams and our resources to be able to provide the top-notch service and resolution process to make it the most efficient for the tax professional, the taxpayer, the firm, whoever it may be. So we're definitely going to do our part in continuing to grow and better our organization to defend whatever the IRS or states roll out.
Yeah, because I think I'm one of those people that I don't really trust the idea that it's tempting for people to think that if the IRS is cutting people down in terms of staff, that will mean less enforcement. I'm kind of not buying that, because I know that the technology can do a lot of that.
Absolutely.
Especially once you start connecting it to other systems and other, a huge portion of the tax gap, right, is unreported income. So if you can identify, from a different system, let's say, right, outside the tax system, that, this amount of income that you're reporting is not what's supporting your asset purchases and those types of things, that's not that hard for these brilliant engineers and software engineers and stuff like that to put those pieces together. So do you think that from a professional messaging standpoint, is that something that tax professionals should be talking to clients about? Because as a tax professional, it's kind of one of these things where in some ways you don't even want to mention the word audit or anything like that.
Right, yeah. Yep.
There's a little bit of like, what if I,
it's like, you're doing my tax return. Why do you think I'm going to get audited?
You've heard that before? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I've heard of that.
It's natural that people, And then, I'm about saying what I like saying that explaining is draining. So then I'm trying to explain things and I'm just like, so is it something that you think that tax professionals should message to their clients, that we're not sure, we're in interesting times, or these kinds of things? Is it something that we should be communicating to some degree about?
I think it's something that you want to have a conversation about, just because it's something that we're all seeing on the headlines and in the news. Okay. And right, so it's not just, whereas maybe a couple years ago, it was a lot of the tax and accounting industry. And if you weren't focused on that, or you didn't have that you were normally reading, it wouldn't just pop up into your feed, right?
Gotcha.
Now I think you can have
more mainstream.
And absolutely. Like you can have an athlete or somebody that's just, working a job that's outside of this industry, and it can come across their feed and they know about what's going on. They see the headlines of the IRS right now, whatever, if they know exactly what it means, but they see IRS, and it's not the most comforting 3 letters for any taxpayer to hear, right? And so to be able to just have a brief conversation about, things are getting crazy, the technology, as just as a whole, you look at the globe, technology is going to rapidly start changing. Artificial intelligence is a huge buzzword right now. So it's taking that worry about hey, even though you're going to see these headlines, you're going to hear about these sorts of stories, whatever they may be, we have a solution for that. And it's something that we're educating ourselves on, and that we're trying to be proactive about taking that stance to protect you and our firm and ourselves. As the industry changes, we want to make sure we're ahead of that change. And when you have something like Protection Plus, I think it helps have that conversation, because you're showing your clients that you're investing in that as well. You're not just saying it and kind of blowing smoke. It's, hey, this is something that we're committing to as a firm as well. So trust it, believe it, understand that you came to do your taxes with a professional for a reason. And we want to make sure we're covering all those bases from the beginning of what form is this, what documents do I need to bring in to do the tax return, and after the tax return's filed, what kind of assurances can you give me after that fact as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Daniel. Really appreciate it. Anybody listening to this, just keep in mind, this was with no preparation whatsoever.
Absolutely. It was awesome.
So, yeah, I can see why you're successful in your role, and really a fan of what you guys are doing. Even the people that aren't using your solution or maybe aren't going to use it, I think that this conversation hopefully will get you thinking about some things that are on your clients' minds. And so however you address those concerns and if and when and how you address them, that's always up to you as a tax professional. That's one of the things I love about the tax industry. Like I said, is there's just so many different ways to do things.
Absolutely.
But hopefully this gets you thinking about stuff that's important to your clients and just having less stress and more success for all of our listeners. So thank you for joining us on Tax Pro Nation. Thanks, Daniel and Protection Plus, for being our special guest. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was fantastic to be here. Thanks for having me. Great to get to know you and chat a little bit. And happy to do it again anytime.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Imelda. Join us as we continue to share these insightful conversations from the IRS Tax Forum. If you are interested in being part of our community, please visit prontotaxschool.com or email us to support@prontotaxschool.com. Being part of our memberships comes with getting expert support, top-rated training programs, and weekly video live events.